Let's talk about lead lists.
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
Your voiceover demos are your #1 marketing tool, and you need to display them on your website in a way that works on any device or browser. VoiceSam is the player producers love. Plus, it offers tools that can improve your email signature, quickly create a one-page website, and much more. Sign up now at voicesam.com/Mark Scott and get 3 months of the base player for the price of one. That's voicesam.com/Mark Scott for full details and to sign up.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur, ready to dive into another episode and give you some more actionable, practical advice that you can use to help you grow your voiceover business. I did want to take a minute to say thank you to all of you who have left reviews for the podcast, wherever you happen to listen, whether that is Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify, anywhere where you listen. I do want to thank you for reading reviews. I was reading through some of the old reviews on Apple Podcasts the other day, and man, it's an encouragement for me and a good motivator before I head into the studio to record, to know that you guys are actually listening, enjoying, and learning. So thank you for leaving those reviews, and if you got a minute, I would appreciate it if you took time to leave one. Let me know what you think about the podcast. So what I want to talk to you about this week is a question that I get asked all the time in Free Advice Friday, and actually I get asked this a lot in my my email inbox as well. Free Advice Friday, for those of you that aren't familiar, by the way. Generally speaking, on Fridays, I try to go live in my VOpreneur Facebook group for about an hour and just hang out and answer questions for free on a Friday. So the question that comes up a lot is, should I buy a lead list? Now, chances are, if you've been in the voiceover industry for longer than 5 minutes, you've probably had somebody market to you, offering you the opportunity to buy a lead list. I probably get 5 to 10 of these a week. Generally speaking, people are trying to sell me e-learning leads lists, but sometimes there are more generalized lead lists as well. And sometimes I get marketing emails from companies who are willing to build lead lists for me, if I want to pay whatever the fee is. I have to say that for me personally, I have never bought a lead list. There are a lot of things that make me nervous about the idea of buying a lead list. I have trust issues. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know. So I've always been nervous about going out and buying a lead list because I feel like there are too many unknowns. There are too many things that I don't have control over in the process. When I'm building a database of leads for my voiceover business, I want to make sure that I'm getting the information that I need. I want to make sure that I'm getting leads that I know are going to be good. And I feel like with a lead list, when it's coming from somebody else and they're just selling me a list that's already been built, I don't have as much control. I don't have as much say over what's going to be in it. But if you wanted to buy a lead list, and again, I've never done it, and I can't say that I specifically recommend it, but for some people, it's easier. For some people, it's a time saver. I get it. Maybe you've got a day job. Maybe you've got kids homeschooling. You don't have all the time in the world. You're looking for shortcuts that can help you to still be able to do some marketing, but save time in the process, and a lead list can potentially do that. So I get it. That's why I've come up with a list of things that I want you to take into consideration before you go out there and buy that lead list. I think these are some questions that you need to ask, and I don't even want to say that this is a comprehensive list of questions. I'm sure there are probably other ones you probably need to ask, but these are some of the ones that I think about whenever somebody offers me a lead list. And the first question right out of the gate is, how many people have this list? If somebody is coming to me with a list of e-learning leads, for example, but they tell me that they've already sold this to 1,000 other voice actors, at that point, I'm not so sure that I want to spend a lot of money on this list because I'm thinking these people are going to be worn out. And I understand that you take the risk on that no matter how you do your marketing. But there's a big difference between me doing a Google search, finding a company, sending them an email, or me connecting with an instructional designer on LinkedIn and making that personal connection, and then finding out that they've already got all the talent that they need, versus me spending hundreds of dollars on a lead list, finding out they've already got everything they need. So the very first thing I want to know is how many people already have it, because if it's been sold to too many people, I'm probably not interested. I'd also want to know how the list is vetted. Are they just going out and just grabbing random leads? Like, what are the criteria that are going into it? How do I know that these e-learning leads are going to be adequate for what I need for voiceover? And I want to know that they're vetted in some capacity. Are you just grabbing random email addresses from Google searches, or are you actually vetting that these companies are good, that these companies exist, that these companies aren't 15 years old or something like that? Which brings me to the next point. When was the last time this list was updated? Is this the same list that you've been selling for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? Even a list that is only 1 year old at this point could be incredibly outdated, because how many companies have gone under or experienced closure due to COVID? And so buying a list that has a whole bunch of companies that were maybe there in January of last year, but they might not necessarily be there this year, I want to know how often the list is updated. Bouncing off of that, how often do you call the list for old leads, dead leads, and replace them with new ones? So you've got this list that somebody's put a ton of work in, you're selling it, you're trying to get it out there so you can make some money off of it, but it's a year old. Have you gone through it? Do you check it periodically? Or was it just, it's built and you've been selling it forever? I want to know whether or not you're going through and updating it. Every once in a while, are you confirming that these people still work for this company, that these addresses are still good? And if they're not, are there new ones being added? Another thing that I always want to know, and this is particularly true in the e-learning space, I would want to know how many people are there from the same company. So you could go to a company like let's just say you found an e-learning production company, right? So they're the company that actually creates the content. And they've got 200 people on staff. And you've just bought a list of 1,000 e-learning leads, but 200 of them come from one company. Does that have the same value to you as 1,000 unique leads? So did you just go through and find the 5 most likely people at that company, or are you just throwing everybody from the company? So that's one of the things that I would want to know. And I've seen this before where voice actors have paid lead generators to create lead lists, and they come back and they've got 20 people from the same company. That doesn't do me any good. I don't want to pay for that. So that's one of the questions that I would be asking. Another question that I would want to know is, what is your policy if I go through this list? So I buy the list, I go through the list, and 20% are old leads, bad leads, dead leads, outdated leads. What is your policy? Do I get a certain amount of my money back? Or are you going to replace all of those leads that are old or dead or outdated or bad? I want to know that, because if I'm paying for something, if I'm paying for this lead list, I would expect that it's going to be 100% good, right? I don't think that that is an unrealistic expectation. Another thing I would want to know is, are there actual contacts and actual individual email addresses, or am I paying for a lead list that has a whole bunch of info at, hello at, contact at, careers at, jobs at, all of those typical general email addresses, because those don't really do me any good either. If I'm going to buy a lead list, I would want to know that it's got names, that it's got emails for individuals, right? Like, I'm going to be able to get to actual people. And the other thing I would want to know is what kind of job titles are included. So you give me a list and it's got a whole bunch of CEOs of production companies, for example. Well, the CEO is the least likely to be hiring a voice actor, right? Now, having the CEO of a production company might have benefits in other spaces when you're creating a lead list and, you're trying to sell it. But specifically for what I need for voiceover, having a lead list that's filled with CEOs of production houses doesn't really do me a lot of good, because they are the least likely to hire me. I mean, yes, sometimes there's going to be production companies where there's only 1 or 2 people, and so you are going to reach out to the quote-unquote CEO or founder or whatever. But on the whole, so I would want to make sure that I knew what the specific job titles were. That's just me. So these are all the kinds of questions that I'm going to be asking before I would ever consider buying a lead list. And I think that these are some questions that you need to take into consideration too. On the flip side of that, I have decided that for me, I would rather hire a freelancer to do this work for me. So I have a virtual assistant who has done lead generation for me for a number of years now. I went through a training process with this person where there were a lot of bad leads that got collected in the beginning, but as we went through those leads and I was able to say, okay, these leads are really good and here's why, these leads are really bad and here's why, here's how we're going to update our search criteria, here are some things that I want you to look out for, here are some ways that we're going to vet the leads to make sure that they're good leads. And so we went through this training process together so that once we got through that initial period, I am now able to go to my virtual assistant at any time and I can say, let's focus on e-learning leads this week. Just go find me a bunch. And that's all I have to do. And the vast majority of the leads that I'm going to get back are great. So before you go out and buy a lead list, and I know that this might be the only option for some of you. So make sure you ask all those questions before you do it so that you know exactly what you're getting. But don't just immediately assume that hiring a freelancer, hiring a virtual assistant, going onto a site like Upwork, for example, is out of the question or unaffordable to you. You could find somebody on Upwork for $50 or $100 a week, and they could find an awful lot of leads for you that are specific to your search criteria. You tell them the genres of voiceover you're looking for, the types of companies that you're looking for, the job titles of the people you're looking for. You tell them what data you want collected. You want email addresses and phone numbers and mailing addresses and their LinkedIn profile and their YouTube channel and whatever. You give them all of those specifics. Now you're getting exactly what you need. Some of these lead lists that I see for sale, they're selling for $800 or more for the lead list. Well, if you've got a freelancer working for you, $800, if you were paying them $50 a week, that just bought you 2 months of lead generation for the same price as what you paid for the lead list. Only this time, you have full control over the quality of the leads that you are getting. That's what I want to challenge you with. That's what I want you to think through. One of the ways that you learn to scale your time, and this is absolutely essential for the everyday VOpreneur to learn how to scale time, is to recognize that there are certain tasks that only you can do for your business, right? Nobody else can record your auditions for you. Nobody else can record your bookings for you. Maybe you don't want anybody else answering your emails right now. Maybe you don't want anybody else doing your social media, whatever it is. There's certain things that only you can do. And there are certain things that you need to be doing because you're going to make a lot more money doing them. If you have somebody doing lead generation for you for $50 a week, but in the time that they're doing lead generation, you could book $1,000 worth of voiceover, then that lead generator is not costing you $50 a week. That lead generator just made you $950 because they gave you the time that you needed to do the things that only you could do. So this is part of the journey of the VOpreneur, is learning how to scale your time so that you can scale up your business. As a full-time voice actor and a full-time voiceover coach, I got a lot going on. Lead generation was the first and most obvious thing for me to outsource. It was the easiest thing for me to outsource. But you don't just need to be a very busy full-time working voice actor to think about this. If you've got a day job and you can only work for an hour or two in the evenings on your voiceover business, this would be an obvious thing for you to try to outsource. That way, in that 1 or 2 hours a night that you have to work on your business, you could focus on just sending emails, not having to do all of that research, or you would be free to do auditions, recordings, bookings as they come in. So it's learning how to scale your time. So whether you decide that you are going to buy a lead list and go through all of those criteria that I mentioned earlier, just to quickly recap, how many people have the list? How is this list vetted? When is the last time it was updated? How often do you call the list for old leads, dead leads, replace them with new leads? How many people are on this list that work at the same company? What is your policy if I email and a percentage of the list is old, bad, dead, outdated? Do I get some money back? Do I get some new leads? Whatever. Are there actual contacts and actual individual email addresses? What are the specific job titles that you have found? All of those, I think, are criteria that you need to be asking before you buy a lead list. But whether you decide that you're going to buy a lead list or you are going to hire a virtual assistant to do lead generation for you, It is absolutely one of the smartest moves that you can make for your business. It is absolutely one of the ways that you are going to be able to scale your time. And one final tip before we wrap this one up, get together with a group of voice actors that you know and trust. Maybe you find a couple guys, a couple gals, you all team up together. You're not in competition with each other because you all sound different. Maybe you all do similar types of voiceover, but you all sound different. Pool your resources together. Hire a virtual assistant for the group that is going to do lead generation. Now you can spend a little bit less money, but because you have economy of scale, because there's a bunch of you putting into the pot, you're going to get even more hours out of your virtual assistant, which means you're going to get even more leads, but you're going to get them for less money. That's a really smart way to look at this too. So if lead generation is one of your struggles, now you've got a couple of solid strategies to make it a whole lot easier. Just do the thing. Buy the list. Outsource the list, but just do the thing. It's absolutely one of the smartest strategies, and it absolutely takes one of the most time-consuming and frustrating aspects of marketing off your plate. Remember, new episodes drop every week for the VOPRENEUR podcast every Thursday. Subscribe wherever fine podcasts are given away for free. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Amazon Music. You can say, hey, Siri, play the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, and she will. You can also go onto the website at VOPRENEUR.com, check out all the episodes. There's 105 of them now, I believe. Go back through the archives, listen to old episodes, search for specific topics. It's all there at VOPRENEUR.com. Also, while you're on the website, click the shop button, pick up some VOPRENEUR swag. Get yourself a tee, a hoodie, one of the new VOPRENEUR water bottles. Lots of cool stuff there at VOPRENEUR.com. Click on the shop button. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOpreneur podcast. Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Your voiceover demos are your number one marketing tool, and you need to display them on your website in a way that works on any device or browser. VoiceSam is the player producers love. Plus, it offers tools that can improve your email signature, quickly create a one-page website, and much more. Sign up now at voicesam.com/MarkScott and get 3 months of the base player for the price of one. That's voicesam.com/MarkScott for full details and to sign up.
And scene.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOpreneur.com.